Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Small Business Surgeon Podcast. Guys, today I've got a rock star on the show for you. We have tried to set this interview up a couple of times and it's fallen through, and I'm very pleased to say that he's here with me today. Man, I try to do a special introduction for all of my guests, and the only thing I can come up for today's guest, man, is he's like the Clark Kent of insurance sales. This man has single-handedly gone from getting changed in a phone booth, and he has turned himself into the Superman of the insurance industry in Texas, and I'm extremely happy to be chatting with him today. So guys, please welcome to the show, Brian McKittrick. Brian, welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, this is the podcast that almost never was.
In more ways than one, but yet here we are. Dude, I'm so impressed with you, and you are to me like just like Clark Kent. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to hear this and not see it, but for those of you that aren't watching, Brian is the very mild-mannered, quintessential newspaper reporter, insurance sales guy. But you have come out, dude. You've come out and you've blown the doors off this thing in the last couple of years, and I really want to dig into that with you and how you've managed to build such a successful insurance business. But before we do that, let's start a little bit further back, maybe not all the way at the beginning, but just tell us a little bit about you and where you come from and how you got where you're at, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Brian McKittrick. I'm the founder and sales director for insuranceoftexas.net. We are don't let the name fool you, we're a nationally licensed insurance brokerage based in Texas. I got into the insurance, actually was first licensed in 2005, but my career started as sales, retail sales. It's kind of funny to say this, at 1999. So I've been over 20 years in sales. Yeah. So retail sales, retail management, did a year in cars. It sounds like I did a year in jail. Spent a year in cars.
It's kind of like purgatory. I think we've all sold cars at some point.
But retail management, and then at the fall of 2015 is when I went full-time into insurance. Even though I had my license since 2005, I did it part-time, but I went full-on into insurance in 2015. Started as an agent, earned set up and earning a six-figure salary in my first year. Got into management with leading teams just shortly after, and then did my own office, Insurance of Texas. We opened March 1st of 2020, which is I think like the week after I opened my office is when the NHL and the NBA shut down. But
I think we do a 2020 story, don't we?
Yeah, it's funny. But we do brokerage sales. I've got a small group that we have our own thing that we kind of do there, licensed nationally, primarily health. We do life, Medicare nationwide. We also have property casualty. And we have an insurance licensing school. So we help others get their insurance license, both Texas. We actually have a national footprint there. We're training a Nebraska group today.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've done all of that in like 6 years, dude.
So actually being an agent, and so I was with a firm, a great group of guys out of Fort Worth, Texas. I'm based in Arlington, but in Fort Worth, working with a team, and that's when I took over a group with them, started doing training there. So that's where I first started doing the training that goes along with insurance. But we did our own office, like I said, March of 2020, and 1 year to the day, we were able to grow into an office 6 times the size of what we started.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yeah,
and I'd love to get into that with you here in just a little bit. Were you always interested in insurance sales, or was it just something you kind of fell into there along the way?
Maybe my son might be this way, but I don't think any kid grows up thinking they want to be an insurance salesman. My son might. Now he sees me, he's like, "Oh, I want to do the family business."
Yeah, no doubt.
But it was an opportunity that came up in 2015 in the Medicare space. I'm sorry, 2005. Sorry, in the Medicare space, I was actually waiting for a position to start at one retail. I left one retailer, was going to take another position, but I had to wait for it to start. And that was the year that Medicare came out with the drug plan and the Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay.
So I got my license, started selling a little bit, but I always had an affinity to be. I liked the retail space, and that worked really well for a while. It just after a while, it just got, I got tired of being told no. I always had that entrepreneurial bug, So I always push the envelope in retail, but I always run into, no, you can't do that. Corporate says no. District manager says no. So I,
There we go. Sorry.
there we are.
Little audio issue. Hold on. It's at edit at 5:30.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm making a note for my team. Sorry, and we'll go back to that was my fault. I was looking through my notes and I nudged the mute button on my microphone, so I apologize.
Okay.
Edit at 5:30. All right. So there's always that corporate kind of claw that holds back guys like us. So I see the need to make a transition there.
Mm-hmm. So I was being recruited. I relicensed in Texas. So I've been primarily a lifelong Texan. I did spend about 3 or 4 years in Oklahoma and then in Alabama. When I moved back to Texas, I relicensed, and that's when I started getting recruiting calls, that kind of thing. So I put it off for a little while, and then finally one day I had it with the retail space, and I did an interview with this firm in Fort Worth and got a real good vibe and went right in and hit it. The cool thing about sales, what I really enjoy is if you can sell a car, you have the same skills to sell insurance. You can sell a TV, you can sell, microwave, appliance, whatever it is, business to business. The functionality of sales is still there. So I've always enjoyed that. So I didn't really skip a beat going from, okay, let me sell I left Office Max to go before insurance. I was at the biggest Office Max in Dallas, Fort Worth, and went into insurance. And those skills translate over.
Right, right.
Sales is sales, leadership is leadership, management's management. Those same skills translate over. So it didn't really skip a beat for me. Went right into it, and I really fell in love with the fact of, I'm a business owner. But even still, that one office, I was underneath their platform, which is a strong platform. It's just I also felt like, you know what, I'm still being told no.
Yeah, because they limit what you can sell, don't they? A lot of insurance agencies.
A lot of places have a focus, so I didn't want to have that limitation. But also, I just really wanted to do my own thing. I really enjoy showing up to my office. It's my mess. It's my stuff on the board. It's so I really enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, that's exactly why, and I don't talk about real estate a whole lot, but I bought my license with a company called EXP because they leave me alone. Provided I stay legal and ethical, my license has to go somewhere. But I think for entrepreneur-minded people, having the ability to just set themselves up, have their own shop, have their own rules, and have no master, so to speak. So how was starting out for you? You run into any speed bumps? Was it a relatively smooth transition?
I think the key to doing anything new is just to kind of listen. The people that are there, they're a sales manager for a reason. They're the division manager for a reason. So I literally had no preconceived. I didn't come in like, oh, I've done this and this and this. It doesn't matter. I walked in and then the sales manager goes, okay, see this. We pulled up our CRM. He says this list of people here. I'm like, yeah. He said they inquired about insurance. I said, okay. He says, well, I need you to call them back and see if they're ready to buy insurance. Okay. It's just that simple. Call the names of the list.
I'm kind of
see
speechless.
If they're ready to buy insurance.
I'm kind of speechless because that's not the best way to do that, I don't think. But anyway.
We had at that particular year we had a program with a carrier, and they were calls into the carrier. So all we were doing is calling back and saying, hey, you called us. How can I help you? So, but it worked. I didn't, do anything special. They had a booth at a Walmart. I sat in the Walmart and I wrote policies. So I did even though I walked into, that was health insurance, and health insurance has the open enrollment period. Is about 90 days long. I walked into half of that. I walked in on Black Friday, is when I started on my birthday, November 23rd of 2015, on Black Friday, and got to work. And even though I had missed the first half of open enrollment, I still did $1 million in premium.
Wow.
Which people ask me, is that a lot? The average plan is $5,000. So
that's hustling. Yeah, to hit that, that's really moving. So,
but I kept it simple. It was just a matter of, these people called us, you call them back and see if you can help them. Okay. I sat in the Walmart and help people.
It's amazing what happens when you call the leads, right? I'm sure we know somebody that says that.
Exactly, called leads. But the key there is this guy. You keep it simple. He told me what to do, what would work. I just did what would work, and I kept learning more things from people that are more experienced than me of what would work. And sure enough, it worked for me.
That's why we write operating procedures for everything. You figure out what works, you stick to it, you keep on rolling through.
Exactly.
Man, so you've jumped out of retail, you're into insurance, and then a couple of years in, you discover this program called Apex. And I want to touch on Apex because you're now almost one of the poster childs for the program, from coming through it to the level you're at right now and the amount of work you're doing. And you've 6 times your business in the last year. So I do want to dig into that a little bit and how that happened. But tell us what joining Apex was like for you and what it felt like the first time you walked into the room with all those other entrepreneurs.
Okay. So Apex was created by Ryan Stewman. I came across him, actually one of my sales guys in the summer of 19 that says, hey, this is a book about how to market in social media. It's a free book with free plus shipping. We know that that's a marketing ploy.
We know what that means. Yeah, we know that, but you didn't at the time, right?
No, it's like, oh, a free book. Okay, I paid $9 for shipping. Same price on Amazon, whatever. So I started reading it, and once again, it's simple stuff. I started putting those tools. I said, okay, this is cool. And then, so that was in the summer of 19. In the fall of 19, there was a Black Friday promo for the funnel website software phone sites. So got phone sites and started playing around with that. Got another course called Closer Memes, which is the fun follow-up course that Drewby does. So, and I was in the Sales Talk with Sales Pro Facebook group, which supports that stuff. And I kept seeing all these different things, Apex here, Apex there. Every now and then they talk about a program. And I sent a message to Drewby. I said, hey, Drewby Wilson's the VP of sales there. I said, what is Apex? I see all these different things about it. He says, let's schedule a phone call. So we scheduled a phone call, but Drewby couldn't make it. So he goes, hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it, but we're going to keep your appointment. Someone else is going to call you. A few moments later, Ryan himself sent me a message, said, hey, I'm going to take over for Drewby. I'll be able to call you at whatever time. So we had a great conversation. And that conversation was not anything to do with money. It had everything to do with where I was as an entrepreneur. He says, tell me, and I had already been yearning to do something outside of just hammering the phones all day long. Yeah. And insurance, there's a quantitative measure or a barometer, if you will, of, okay, if I make this many phone calls, I'll have this many presentations, I'll have this many sales, this is the money I can make. Yep. I can map that out. The downside is it's a lot of work.
Yes, completely agree.
Hundreds of calls a week, a lot of times insurance agents will make, so I was like, it's got to be an easier way. This is the year 2019. We're in the 21st century. Why is there not something else to do? So that's what I wanted to find out. And I'd already got a GoDaddy website for myself, but talking to Ryan, he's like, what do you know about this stuff? I said, told him what I knew, which was almost nothing. Right. I had about 200 Facebook friends, but they're literally like friends. Yeah. People I grew up with, people I worked with, wives of people, girlfriends, boyfriends of people. That was it. I thought Facebook was, we're sharing pictures of our dogs and babies and stuff. So I didn't even I had a LinkedIn profile, but didn't even have a picture. I had Twitter to follow band stuff.
Dude, it sounds like all of us. I mean, we've all got a really similar story. I didn't have that many Facebook friends either. And, now I got so many, I don't know who the hell they are, and I'm sure you're the same.
I in the program, so you see, he's like, okay, cool. Well, you need to start at the base because you just don't know this stuff. You need to build it up. So we use a term called build your machine. So it's literally building a foundation and stacking on like a pyramid or adding more pieces to the car that will be your marketing machine. So learning those skills and now crafting it, I was able to get in and but I thought to myself, you know what, this is an opportunity that I missed out on when I was younger. It's like I was really, when I was thinking sometimes selling cars, or maybe my first management position in retail is when I came across like Stephen Covey, John Maxwell especially, and I really, really enjoyed Zig Ziglar. But I lived out of state and I never saw him. And he ended up passing away before I moved back here. So I always lamented not being in those programs. So when I got in Apex, I was like, you know what, I'm really going to take hold of this. Ryan had gone through one of his courses. Ryan's in with Keith Kraft, who had been like the last 12 to 13 years of Zig's life. They had been involved. So I was like, you know what? This resonates to me. I kind of see Ryan in that regard. So I was like, I'm going to take this and really get into it. So I got in, and the idea was I get in and make sure and come in. So I meet the definition of being an entrepreneur and self-employed, that kind of stuff. So we started working way up. So I was in the Apex group, and then went to the entrepreneur group after a few months. And then the executive group after a few months. And then as of about 2 weeks ago, I'm now an executive coach.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
So now you coach the little guys.
Yeah, I've got two so far. But hopefully that grows up. It's amazing to see it, blossom so much, and the goals are incredible. But to me, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be around this special group. I'm really gonna take hold and do what the program is intended for. So, but the key there is I once again, I kept it simple, and I just did what was in the thing. Yeah, but the program is
so many people, they want to come in and they want to read about it and they want to write down their notes and they just want to go home, and they're trying to learn how to be successful. And I think you've got to do the work, and you're just the example of the guy that just showed up day after day and put the work in.
Yeah, I make a joke. So the head of coaches is a guy named Chris Whitehead, and I make a joke with him that, you remember the movie Forrest Gump? So what's funny about Forrest Gump movie is, like, the whole theme was stupid is as stupid does. Well, he didn't really do anything dumb. Like, he occasionally would do something, like show his butt to Lyndon B. Johnson or something like that. But other than that, he just did. But he did what his mentors told him to do.
Yeah.
If you really look at that movie and go, well, he just did what his mom told him. He did what Bubba told him. He did what the drill sergeant scene where he says, "How in the world did you take apart that gun so fast?" He just goes, "Because you told me to."
Right.
So if we just take our ego out of it and say, okay, hold on, this guy's more successful than I am at this thing. Let me just do what he does let me just do what he tells me to do, see how it works for me, and then I'll put my own spin on it. I think too early in the game, people go, well, my industry's different and I need to do this instead of that. And those are the guys who usually don't make it.
Yeah, because, industries are different, but I tend to find that the 10% that's different across industries, 90% of everything's the same. It's 90% the same skill sets over and over and over, repeated daily, and that's kind of what we focus on. So now your business is huge compared to where it was. Talk us through a little bit about the expansion and how you managed to expand so quickly and, more importantly, stably as well.
So I think one of the things that holds people back in a lot of ways is fear, is to look at, well, I'm already doing this. I don't want to rock the boat, and I'm scared. Yeah, I'm scared to do this. So I see it a little different way. So I see it as you progress and you level up. If you think about that, you remember playing video games and you beat one level and then you go into the next one. So my son, he's 8, and we just introduced him to Nintendo, right? The old games.
Yeah.
So we're playing Super Mario Brothers. You beat level whatever, and then you go to the next one. Well, if you try and you fail, you go back to that level you just beat.
Correct. Yeah.
The same thing happens in business, I think. So you're at this one level and you did this one thing. Well, now you know the skills to be at that level.
Yes.
So if you make the attempt, stretch out and go into the next level, even if you're unsuccessful, you've already been successful at the previous one. So your floor has been raised.
Yes.
So I left retail into a full commission environment, but I knew that 6 months in, maybe a year in, if it was not working, I can go back to being a successful store manager. When I took over a team, I'd already built up a 6-figure earning as an agent. I know what it takes to be a 6-figure earning as an agent. So the team doesn't work, I can still do that. So I step out on my own office. I still know what it takes to go back to an office and be an entrepreneur within a team environment and still make a certain level of money. So by branching out as we step up, now you want to solidify that, make sure that's working.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that car's got to be running before you add something to it. But you can't be scared to add the one more thing just because you might change up a little something about what you're currently doing.
Correct. Yeah, I
So,
completely agree.
yeah, there's plenty of people. There's people that get in their industry. Nothing wrong with this. They get into the industry and they do the same thing for 20 years. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to be, that's what you want to do. I have a friend. He's been doing Medicare successfully for the last 10 years. He makes somewhere between 80 to 100,000, depending, and he wants to sell 100 people a year, and he stacks onto his clientele base. That's great if that's your interest. But if you have an interest to scale in a massive way, then you can't be scared to branch out and try those things.
Well, in my experience, even if it goes wrong, which for me it has several times, that's how I got so good at what I'm doing. But when it goes wrong, you're never starting from scratch. You're always starting from experience. You start from whatever the baseline was that you drew before you leapt off. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So talking of failures, have you ever failed? What would you consider your biggest failure as an entrepreneur, or have we bypassed all that? Are you the lucky one that learns from the rest of us?
I have a tendency to be pretty methodical. So I don't just jump into something.
Right.
However, that doesn't mean, I've not had disappointments or that kind of thing. When I was took over a team within an office, the one downside, and I realized this after a couple of years, was I was leveling up people, and as I add a person, I was adding costs. So what I essentially was doing was this parallel line of additional revenue with additional cost, and my baseline did not change. So that to me was like, all right, I wish I would have had my own office the year after I kind of understood and got the stuff ready. So when I took over a team, I would have laddered that, been in my own office at that point. That was a disappointment. To go 2 years, almost 3 years, 3 years. So for 3 years, build a team, but all I was doing was doing the same work over and over and over and over again. Now you gain experience, and I did add something that came from that, but that was a drawback for me. It really was.
I can understand how frustrating it must be to see your revenues rise and see your expenses just keep track and keep pace with those revenues and rise with them. How do you avoid that? How have you managed to move past that?
Yes.
Let's share a little about that, because that sounds incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, so I think the key now is if you're looking at scale, is to make sure it's an exponential scale. So what I did not realize then was it was 1 and 1. It was 1 plus 1. I would add this much, but cost me this much to do it. So all I was doing was adding an equal amount, 1 to 1. What I now look at within the insurance industry is how can I put money in and then exponentially get money out?
Yes.
So for instance, right now, one of the things I'm working on is a lead program. I'm trying to make sure that whatever I do stays also in the insurance lane. That happened last year when all the COVID stuff. Now, I didn't have any customer loss. I only lost one guy globally, -1 person, and that was a guy who started a new company, and of course, it had to fold.
Right.
That was really the only global person that I lost. However, I did distract myself a little bit in that I tried to add a piece of the business that was closely related, but not 100%. So from there, I know that everything I do, I wanted to be a bolt-on to insurance. So I get insurance sales, we have insurance training. Okay. And then in regards to one thing I'm looking at now, I just had a call about 2 hours ago, is in the marketing space to build insurance lead platforms. So that's my next really scale out. I've already got something that we've started, but to make it scale, format it correctly, that's my next project. But that's all stays in the insurance lane.
Right.
But once that's ready, it's like, okay, boom, here's the format, here's what works, money in. Now I can go, boom, your money out. So if I can generate a lead for, let's say, $3 to $5, I can go sell that same lead for $10.
Yeah.
Becomes scale. So I want to make sure that everything, from here on out, I'm not just going, okay, I spent this much money and I get the same money back.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense, man. That makes perfect sense. So, dude, I have to ask, you've got all this stuff going on now. What does success look like for you?
I'll consider myself, having made it when that I can step out and go, okay, I don't have to rely on myself working on the pieces. So, the training stuff, I've got, have someone to work on that.
Yes.
Building a team, I've got to make, a person for that. Lead program, I've got a person for that. That's the idea there is, so you have this, you now own a business, whereas the business owns you when you're self-employed.
Yeah, the ability to step away for a month is, I think that's something we're all working towards. What would you say, man, what would you say the biggest lesson that you've learned along the way since starting out in 2015 has been?
Definitely keeping it simple. Just don't, and I try to overthink it. Just whatever comes in. I think we read a book, implement what's in the book. We see a program, implement what's in the program. But you got to decide if that's for you or not. But if you're gonna ingest something, a training, whatever it is, just implement and keep it simple.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some notes of that, because I have a tendency to overcomplicate things, and I know a lot of the guys listening do too. But my dad would always say, he'd be like, "Keep it simple, stupid." I'm like, "Don't call me stupid, Dad." But that's what he said. Kiss, keep it simple, stupid.
Well,
so
it doesn't have to be this grandiose thing. I was reminded, I don't know what reminded me of this, but I read a great book. It's Vince Lombardi, What It Takes to Be Number One. And he's talking about, in that book, fundamentals.
Yeah.
And he said that the reason the Packers win at that time, is because we execute the fundamentals better than any football team on earth. That's what he said. Better than any other football team. We execute the fundamentals. And that's where he beats them.
Stuman touched on it in G-Code and said there's only 10 numbers and 7 colors, and humans make shit really complicated. And for me, doing simple things over and over and over has really paid dividends. I want to shift gears a minute, if we can.
Sure.
I know that most of us in our circles like to read. So can you share a good book or two with me that you've read recently?
Yeah. So a couple of ones that are higher on the radar recently. I'd say my all-time favorite book would be Develop the Leader Within You. That book is John Maxwell. He wrote 2 books, actually, back to back: Develop the Leader Within You and Develop the Leaders Around You. But in Develop the Leader Within You, it's actually kind of a workbook style deal. Okay. In that book, he introduces the 5 levels of leadership. That alone spawned another book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. But the first one is a much more of a instructional workbook style. So I really, really enjoy that book a lot. Recent books have been Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. That's a great book.
That is a good one, yeah.
Rocket Fuel is the first of a 3-series book, but Gino Wickman's Rocket Fuel is a great book. I like those.
I gave that book
simple ideas.
I gave that book to a buddy of mine that was struggling, and I kept poking him, and I kept poking him, and I kept poking him, and he finally had a breakthrough moment from that book, the integrator and the visionary and all that. Yeah, I gave it to him. So it's Rocket Fuel is a tremendous book. I love it.
If there was a way in that book to be all visionary, that's who I would be. I'm literally all. I don't think I did anything. Like, if I look at the integrator quiz, I'm like, I don't match him.
I don't like that.
No, I mean, and I think the tendency, if you read the book, we had an entire meeting, an executive one time on that in January. We talked about this. It's almost like you kind of the visionary is the sexy one, the one that's on. That people talk about, and but the guy behind the scenes, man, he gets so much done. It's like people want to talk about Walt Disney, but his brother did so much for the company to make it what it is today. So that's just one example of many that you can have these different companies. Like the visionary's there, he's the one that everybody sees, but those behind the scenes dudes really making stuff work, and that can be the catalyst. You put them together and just explode.
Yeah, but if people have integrator on their resume, I'd like to talk to them and hire them, because finding the right integrator. I mean, look at short term. Look at what good that Paul has done in Zach Babcock's business, and how good the integrator is going over there, and how well he's helping pull all the strings. It's really neat. It's really neat to see it close by.
our friend Thomas Keenan, he matched up with Ryan Stewman in their group, Break Free Academy, and that's been a catalyst to some amazing growth. Is putting, because Thomas has a way to put those pieces in place, and it's like, okay, here's the vision, cool. Here's what we need behind the scenes to make it happen. He's the one with the dry erase board, putting the X's and O's on there. Really cool.
He's also quite formidable too, so nobody's going to argue with him. He's going to be able to integrate whatever he needs to integrate.
Yeah, I'm an integrator around here, like a sheriff.
Now I'm scared if he hears it.
I'll see him tomorrow. It'll be okay. Recently, I've seen him like the last two MDMs, but Vince Reed's book, Internet Traffic and Leads. I'm reading that one right now. I'm almost done. Very, very good stuff. Saw him last year's MDM conference, the $1 Million Mastermind, and then I actually got to sit down with him before this most recent one. So that was a cool experience. He signed my book. My son met him. Yeah, really cool.
Lucky for a signature. I think Thomas signed my book. I think that's all the ones I got. But man, how do you like those events? Have they? For me, Masterminding absolutely changed my life. Has it done the same for you? Do you get a lot of value out of that kind of stuff?
I enjoy those kind of things because I didn't do them growing up. So I took my son. You were there in February. The Apex Live one. Dude, I took my son there.
I want to bring my kids. I just don't dare.
Yeah. He's 8, and well, the cool thing is my wife sees so it's cool to have that be on the same page with his growth and his mindset. So we're very, very strong with him on his education stuff, but I want to expose him to those things that I get a chance to grow up with.
Yeah.
So I only knew about these guys in my mid to late 20s, and for Mason, who's 8, to go, and he's not really much into sports or music, like pop music or anything like that. So when he sees these authors, he read one of Ryan's books, he has Drewby's book. So when he sees these guys, it's like, hey, this is like seeing Stewman is like awesome to him.
Yeah.
He loved Sean Whalen. Keith Craft was who he came in really excited about seeing, because we see him on TV, but he liked Billie Jean's presentation a bunch. He really enjoyed Vince Reed's. He get to meet Vince. But then Steve Weatherford, that was at that event, that was huge for him. So I like going because it's positive information. I like more of the tactical type stuff. Nothing against anything other than that, but I like to I'll fill a notes. I think my notebook is on my phone, and notebook is filled with Billie Jean's presentation and Vince's presentation because it's tactical type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, for the longest time, I only ever focused on the tactical and never really looked at the mindset. And for me, I had a bucket full of tactical and just no mindset and no self-belief. So finding the mindset stuff. But I think it's really interesting that Mason's taken so well to it, your son, is because when we were kids, or I'm just assuming we're about the same age, but the only place you could really hear Zig Ziglar was if you sent off some money and a little coupon out the back of a magazine. Nobody had that stuff laying around. Nobody taught sales. Nobody taught how to run businesses. I mean, we took a business studies class in high school, and that was about it. And I think that our kids have the most just wonderful opportunities in front of them. The price of knowledge has never been cheaper. The information that we can put together.
You need an internet connection and either a crappy laptop or a cell phone. And I mean, you can see Jim Rohn, you can see Zig Ziglar, all these guys on YouTube for almost nothing.
Yeah, I like Frank Kern in his surfer phase. I like listening to Frank Kern. I think he's got some
stoner Frank Kern style. Yeah, he's got. But yeah, it's just all out there, and and it becomes so. Those are the guys that if Mason had like a the celebrity kind of thing, those would be the guys to him. Like, oh, I could take a picture with Ryan Stewman. That's really cool to him.
Hey, it was cool to me the other week too. I mean,
Yeah.
But man, I think that might be something to do with why we're seeing such a shortage in low-income jobs. A shortage in staff for low-income jobs. I don't want to get too far off track, but it seems like people have discovered how inexpensive developing skill sets is while they've had all this time sitting at home, and now they're making good money. So I think ultimately, online education is going to be very good for the economy. Anyway,
I was talking to someone else about this, another Apex coach, it was Mike Claudio. We were talking about his, we just children. His sons are not much younger than Mason. We were talking about education and stuff like that. And if you look at, I mean, I didn't set foot in a college, you know, so I didn't go that route and have that deal. But you look at the entrepreneurial path, it's like there's no cap. We don't start off with a salary, whatever. But these people coming out of college and they're expecting a certain amount of money. Well, that's fine. But you also, I don't know, the entrepreneurial spirit where you earn and you generate income because you've generated a company that now you can employ people.
Yeah, but
so I like
we
that.
need people like that. We need people with degrees to come in and slide into positions. And, you know, 60 grand a year is not that much money. But there's a bevy of people with degrees will knock your door down and get 60 grand a year. Now, if I can hire a high quality employee that wants job security and isn't gonna up and leave and wants training and wants to be part of my ecosystem, $60,000 is cheap for someone with a degree that's probably smarter than I am. You know, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm very much into the trade style. I think we need to push trades.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of that is both my brothers are electricians, so I think there's a huge value in, and I've got other family who's my dad and his two brothers, all three of them were engineers. So there's a great spot in there for the design and the mechanics of the implementation of trades, and I think we undercut that.
I really agree, and it would be nice if we could make trades to where they weren't kind of frowned upon so much, as everybody says, oh, get a degree. But, you know, I was raised, my great granddad and my granddad, my dad were all painters. And when I got out here, the first thing I started doing for side money was painting houses and doing construction, and that led to flipping houses. And, you know, I got half of what I know from having being raised in the trades. And you know, my brother, he has a very successful engineering company. He started out as a welder, and then now he's got laser cutting machines and all kinds of food grade welding stuff, and he does great. And no college degree. And, you know, I don't want to get too personal for him, but he's struggling to find places to put all his money right now. So
I'll take on an investment. Help me with my lead program.
You know what? I'm sure he just bought a mechanic shop. Like literally just bought it just so he'd have somewhere to hang out and work on his race car. I'm like,
that's awesome.
Yes,
my dad did that.
He's
my dad was an entrepreneur. Yeah, my dad was an entrepreneur. He and his brother-in-law started a hot rod shop. But then my brother was born, and then my other brother was born after that, and then he had to go get a real job.
Hot rods are expensive, dude. I've got one sitting in my driveway that is very expensive and doesn't run because it's so expensive. So it runs about once a year for about 30 seconds, and it goes incredibly quickly, and then it goes pop.
That's funny.
All right, I got a couple more questions, Brian. I appreciate you hanging out with me this afternoon, man. We'll get this.
That's cool.
We'll get this moving, get this wrapped up pretty quick. I got just a couple more questions that I pretty much ask everybody on here. Number one, currently where you're at, who are your biggest influences? Who are the guys that show you the way, and who do we need to go check out?
So I cannot think of any celebrity, famous-ish type person. Everybody that's I'm looking at now and learning from a lot of ways now are people within our ecosystem. The speakers at $1 Million Mastermind, Vince Reed. So I'm looking a lot of his stuff. He has a company, and we're in I'm in his fold there. He does a mastermind once a week. So that probably be about him and Ryan Stewart would be probably about the most famous people I can mention. I do have a close group within a group. So there's 6 of us in Apex. We're all executives. We're all coaches. We call ourselves the Goon Squad.
I've seen that.
Yeah, but that just came from a conversation. But it's 6 people who are all very similar. Everyone's a dad. We've all my book is in the editing stage, nearly done. 2 other guys are in the same spot, or we've all written a book. So to all be on that very similar platform and on the same plane, those are probably people that I would get the most influence from. But once again, these are not household names. So I'm not looking to any of the celebrity types. It's more the guys who are in the trenches doing the work like you're talking about.
Yeah, I love that. And most of the people listening to this aren't going to be looking at celebrities as their idols. They're going to be looking at guys like Stuman and guys like you and guys like Tom, and so they do look up to them. So it's good to hear that you're influenced by the same guys that we are. One more question. So
Sure.
What is the biggest piece of advice you can give to a kid starting out as an entrepreneur?
If you're starting out as an entrepreneur, I think you number one, you need to look at what it is that really drives you from a passionate standpoint, from an internal standpoint. There's a lot of ways to make money, but not all of them are fun, sexy things. So if you can get into something and do that something, that becomes a vehicle for something larger later on. But whatever drives you and you're passionate for, don't start chasing other things. Try to stick within bolt-on and scalability within that channel, within that lane. I think it also can become a habit. I've seen guys do this where it's like they're really good at something and this other thing is really cool at the time, so they jump on that thing. And then it either doesn't work or it fizzles out. Now they mess up their other thing.
Yep.
So, find a lane that you like to be in and use that as your vehicle, and look for other scale and bolt-on opportunities in there.
Dude, that's phenomenal advice. If I need to get one of them bomb buttons like Brad Lee has, so whenever somebody drops something like that, I can press the bomb. All right, Brian, before we wrap up, mate, do me a favor and tell everybody listening, tell them where we can find you on Instagram and Facebook, and tell us when your book is due out, sir. Let's get a deadline on that.
Yes, so I just sent what would be my first round of edits. It's probably the longest one back to the editor. I would be ecstatic with August 1st. I don't know if that's.
Oh wow, that's soon.
I don't know. That's my head. I don't know if that's.
I was thinking let's get it on the wish list for Christmas or something, but
no. To me, I don't know, and I'm not in the book trade stuff. But after my last conversation, hopefully Catherine Tagg is her name, great editor. Hope she's not gonna be mad at me for that. But that's in my head. I could very well be wrong. If not August 1st, September 1st, hopefully. July 11th would have been a perfect date for me. That's a family thing, but I don't think it's gonna happen that quick. But as far as finding me, I made it really simple. BrianMcKittrick.com. BRIAN. McKittrick is spelled M as in Michael, CKITTRICK.com. From there is a bio and then links to all my social media.
And we will get that up. We'll get that up in the podcast notes as well. What's your insurance website, man?
Insurance website is insuranceoftexas.net. You can get quotes for life, health, and Medicare through the website. And I also have links for property casualty as well.
Look at that. It's perfect, man. And wow, I just want to say I'm really, really, honored to have been able to watch you come up. I feel like you're several steps ahead of me, but you've come from the exact same spot, and I'm just following a path that you've already cut. So thank you for that, man. And thank you for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Guys, that has been Brian McKittrick. Please go check him out at brianmcKittrick.com. And if you've got any questions about insurance or any of that kind of stuff, jump on over to his website at insuranceoftexas.net. All right, that has been this episode of The Small Business Surgeon. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If you would be so kind as to jump on and leave us a review. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And we will see you on Friday for another episode of Friday Fire. You'll stay safe and have a great week.